One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice, tumbling down the rabbit hole. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's live edition. It is May 8th, 2013. Tonight I'm going to be getting into the Boston bombings a little bit and a few other news tidbits. But first I need to get into something that I saw last night before I hit the rack for the evening. And I had put a message out really quick because I didn't think it was true, and I figured it was inaccurate and at the very least misinformation. And I posted the link on my Facebook page, and I put a call out to all my fellow active duty coasties and retired coasties to let me know if the story were true. And that story would be that the Coast Guard 7th District was ordered to have a operational stand down other than life-saving calls, like, distress calls on, our boat is taking on water and the like. Otherwise, no drug patrols, no any other type of patrols, migrant patrols, interdiction, anything. Any type of port security, all that. No more bringing naval vessels in and out of the ports with armed security, which is what the Guard does. It's one of the things they do. They offer port security to naval vessels coming in and out of port. They offer port security to cruise ships and bigger ships like that, container ships coming in and out of ports, especially huge, busy ports all around the country and in certain parts of the world. But part of this story was that there was this operational stand down. Now, the reason why this rang completely untrue right off the bat to me, as most of the listeners will know, is I am a veteran. And I am a veteran of the United States Coast Guard. And my last duty station was in District 7, the 7th District. So this is my old turf. So it rang an alarm bell with me. And I'm going to be getting into that a little bit coming up in the longer break. I'm going to debunk it because the story is not true whatsoever. And I will tell you how I know this. So stay tuned, because we got a break sneaking up on us. When we get back, I'll get into why the story that's floating around the internet right now, that the Coast Guard 7th District was ordered to do an operational stand down, is not true whatsoever. We will be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. So, as I was saying, last night when I went to bed, right before I hit the rack, I saw this article that somebody had sent to me on Facebook, and they said, hey, this might, interest you a little bit, because they knew I was a retired coastie. And I saw the article in the first, paragraph and a half. I didn't even have to read further than that, and I was like, this has got to be crap, because this would be a first in the history of the Coast Guard, ever. And it would be monumental. And I'm not saying that the alternative independent media hasn't broken news stories before, but this is something that comes out, somebody shared with me, I find in the middle of the night, and it just, I hadn't heard it anywhere else, not even any credible alternative, independent, whatever you want to call it, sources. And unfortunately, this thing went kind of viral. And it was located on 3 websites that I know of so far. There's 3 that I know of. There's probably more, but there's 3 that I was able to trace it back to. I found it on Before It's News, which some people don't like. I really don't have any ill feelings towards them. They have a lot of writers that work for them, and they also kind of aggregate. My stuff, they hooked up an RSS feed. They asked me months and months ago, a long time ago, if they could put an RSS feed for Federal Jack on there. So whenever I post anything on Federal Jack, it does generate a post on Before It's News as well. It shows it over there. I mean, it shows it shows that it's from Federal Jack. It links it back to Federal Jack and everything. So I don't know if this post was written by somebody, or if it was just over at Before It's News, or if it was just automatically generated from another source, which it could be as well. But they did put the originating link in there, and when you click on the originating link, because they have the source link at the bottom, you click on it and it goes to another website, and then it's got the original source link, which the Before It's News article, because it was a copy of this other person's article, also had the same source link in it. So they were both sourced from the same main page. And when you go to that page on a website that is called Watchdog Wire, the article's not there. 404, the requested page could not be found. Well, I guess they realized that they were wrong, and they deleted the article. Instead of printing a retraction or anything like that, they just deleted the article. But the damage had already been done, because if you go over by at least over on Before It's News, at least 5,000 people gave it a thumbs up on Facebook, and liked that link on Facebook. So that means that thing went pretty viral, and it just serves as it serves as an example of why we have to be very, very careful about how we report things. Now, I could get into that sidetrack, going off on that, which I have before, and I can, but first I want to tell you how I know that this is not accurate or true. Okay, not just because I was in the Coast Guard once and I know, because I'm sure if I left it at that, that would be a comment I would get. No. What I did was I first reached out to people I knew to see that were in the Guard, to see if they had heard about this. And at the time, they hadn't heard about it yet. They were like, I haven't heard anything. So that was alarm bell, red flag number 1. They hadn't even heard anything about it yet. But when I had a chance to today, I was busy doing a bunch of things, and this was one of the things I wanted to get done. I called the Coast Guard 7th District. You see, their main headquarters is located in downtown Miami. Being that I was in the Guard, I know that. Very easy. Went online. Took me about 2 minutes to find the phone number, to the most updated phone number to the public relations office over there. And I called them. And I sat and I had a nice, pleasant 10-minute conversation with the young petty officer on the other end of the line. And she was very well aware of the story. In fact, they had just had a Guard-wide email put out this morning about the article because it had gone viral, and she said that it was not true. It was not accurate. I asked her a bunch of different questions. I knowing what I know about being in the Guard, and from what I had read in the article, I was able to ask her things that I'd be able to tell if, it was true or not. And, I mean, I already didn't believe it, but without a shadow of a doubt, she was able to completely say, no, it is not accurate. The Coast Guard 7th District has not taken any type of operational stand down. And because, ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe the powers that shouldn't be, right? And I have that in me. I was still skeptical, right? Not that I don't believe that this young petty officer was, that she's part of the New World Order or that she's in on it or anything like that. It's quite the contrary. But I still, being a good journalist and independent reporter, I had to check for myself. So I took a drive because I know where the base is. Anybody with half a brain knows where the base is. They drive by it every day. So I took a drive by the base just to see if all the ships that I know are there would be there, or if there were some out to sea. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Lo and behold, there are cutters that aren't on the base. Well, if they're not on the base, then they're out to sea. There's only one of two places that they would be. So guess what? I'm not only able to sit and tell you that I confirmed it with the Public Relations Office and that they are not having any type of operational stand down at all in the U.S. Coast Guard 7th District. Okay? Not only are they not having an operational stand down, they're not. They are not having an operational stand down. Not only did she tell me that, but I drove by the base and checked with my own two eyes. I didn't see thousands of sailors standing around on the pier doing nothing, twiddling their thumbs. I didn't see ship upon ship upon ship moored up to the base. Nope, quite the contrary. It actually looked just like it normally does. A couple of the cutters might be there, but not all of them. That's the way it is. Did I take a gander and see that the station was in full operation? Looked like it was to me. Looked like everything was operation normal. No red flags. So I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that that article, where whoever this watchdog wire is, because that's where it originated from. Okay, all the other two, Before It's News and the other website, picked it up as secondary. So this website, Watchdog Wire, seems to be where the original article, at least from what I can see, following it back from where I found it, leads me to their website. And the original article has now been deleted. So I can tell you, without a shadow of a doubt, this story is bunk. It is garbage. It is not accurate. It is not accurate reporting. If you have it on your website, delete it. If you have it in your timeline on Facebook, delete it. If you've tweeted this or told people, delete it. If you've emailed this to people, then email them a retraction. If you've posted it, I would suggest you print a retraction saying, no, this is not accurate. Again, I spoke to the U.S. Coast Guard 7th District Public Relations Office in downtown Miami today. And I visually went by the base. There is no stand down whatsoever of the U.S. Coast Guard 7th District. Okay? There is none. The base down here looked ops normal. From what that coupled with talking to the Public Relations Office today and knowing what I know, and already having not believed this thing to begin with, and having people that are in tell me they didn't hear anything about this until obviously this morning when this guard-wide email went out, and I had spoken to my friends about this last night before the email went out. So obviously the email went out in between the time that I spoke to them and I spoke to the petty officer over in downtown Miami this afternoon. But when I spoke to them, they hadn't heard anything about it. So red flag 1, red flag 2, she says no, ops normal, blah, 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 blah. And then 3, visual, looks ops normal. Because if there was a stand down, everything would be there. And it's not. So, you know what? We need to really, as the independent media, this is why we need to pay attention to what we post on our websites. Look, I used to post a lot more stuff on federaljack.com. A lot more stuff. I've slowed down. My Alexa rank took a hit because of it, and that's I know that number means a lot to a lot of people. Oh my God, my ranking for my website. And it does when it comes to getting sponsors and stuff, I understand. But I'm not going to chase after a ranking number and just randomly post stuff in order to have a good global ranking so I can get sponsors and stuff. I refuse to do that. And I've talked about not being part of that this independent news cycle or alternative media news cycle that is being created. Professor Tracy and I talked about this last night, how the powers that shouldn't be are paying attention to how the independent alternative media responds to things that they do, and they're learning from it. Remember, everybody keeps thinking of these guys as David Rockefeller and these Rothschild families, the older generations, right? The guys that were that are evil, and they were the bad guys for a very long time, but they're no longer the ones that are in charge. David Rockefeller's 97 years old, and the only thing he's conquering is not crapping on himself. He has a bag strapped to him so he can pee and poop into it. Okay? He's not conquering anything. That old dirtbag is wheelchair bound. So let him live for another 110 years in miserable existence. Good. Suffer, scum. Death would be heaven sent for him. Would free him from this mortal coil, right? Free him from the bonds of pain that I'm sure he feels in that old, age-riddled body of his. Remember, again, pooping in a bag. And I'm not picking anybody that has a colostomy bag, but dude's 97 years old in a wheelchair with a colostomy bag. He's not the one to keep your eye on the ball. You got to look at his kids, and not even them, but they have influence still, but their kids and the grandkids. You got to pay attention to the younger generations, because that's who they're bringing into Bohemian Grove. That's who they're bringing into all these circles now. The CFR are these younger generations, the late 20-somethings, 30-somethings. Even some of the younger ones are being groomed already. Go look. They're grooming the younger generations. I think it was Shepard was the one that, I know he almost got run over taking photos, but I think it was one of his photos that he took at Bilderberg last year that there was, they spotted a lot of these younger generation techies going into Bilderberg. So that's who you got to worry about. That's who you got to focus on. So anyway, they're watching us as the independent alternative media, okay, and we have to watch ourselves too. Okay? And in cases like this story about the Coast Guard 7th District stand down, we have to pay attention to what we're doing. This is bunk. We need to make sure we don't put out stuff like this, because then when it gets debunked, right, we look like morons. Hence why I backed off from getting involved in that news cycle that we've even become in the independent media, right? We've created our own news cycle. So we got to be wary of that kind of stuff. Just pay attention, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes if it sounds way too off base, a lot of times it is. I know, although in Bizarro World it's hard to tell. So I understand. All right, we'll be back in a few short minutes. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. So last night, while I was on air, one of the listeners was hitting me up on Twitter, letting me know that there was a problem going on, or an incident going on over in the offices of the San Francisco Pride organizers about next month's Gay Pride festivities and parade going on over there. And you could say, well, why would you even care to bring it up, Popeye? Why would you mention this? Well, what was going on was the people there were protesters in there that wanted Bradley Manning to be recognized as a hero in the parade. And they would not recognize, I guess the organizers didn't want the people to march. And there's an article up on ktvu.com titled SF Pride Parade Controversy Greeted by Angry Protest. Anyway, the reason I bring this up is because I promised the listener that I would bring this up on air and make mention of it, and it is important because Bradley Manning is a hero. And I don't see anybody else talking about this. The kids being occasionally in the mainstream media, you hear it talked about, but the kids really being just stuffed in a hole and screwed over. And the war criminals like Bush and Cheney and Obama and the rest of them are all walking around free. They have big mansions. And this kid doesn't have any type of notoriety whatsoever. And now you have the gay pride parade or festivities going on over in San Francisco coming up in a few weeks, and he can't even get recognized there. And this local activist group, the activist group that went there, was pissed off about it, and rightly so. So they called the police on them and made a big deal out of it. And it's facing. I'll read you from the article. It says the board is facing a firestorm of criticism for revoking the selection of Manning as one of the parade's honorary grand marshals, and it did not allow the news media or many of the protesters inside, saying it would quote unquote be a fire hazard, and then that it just fueled the fury of the protesters, and the protesters got pissed off, and then it went back and forth. And personally, you could say whatever you want to say, put all your personal feelings about homosexuality aside, because that would be an ad hominem attack on Manning anyway. So put all that stuff aside and just think about the fact that if it were not for Manning, all of us would not know the level of info that we got out of the information that he released about torture, deaths, civilians being killed, right? Everybody loves to throw that information out there, but where's the person that opened the door for you to find that information? Where's he right now? In a hole. And often he gets forgotten about. And it's important to focus on that. And it's important to focus on this because they are these organizers, these protesters are trying to get Bradley Manning some notoriety. And they're pissed off that he was removed from as being Grand Marshal of the parade. So, you may find it trivial. Some may find it trivial that I bring it up and spend a few minutes talking about it. But I promised the listeners who messaged me about it that I would bring it up. It is important because it involves, look, any time, okay, a whistleblower is what they're doing to him is they're trying to, how can I put this so people can understand it? Nobody wants to have his name, Bradley Manning. Oh, okay, he's unpatriotic. He released information. Troops got killed because of him. So you can't even have an event where people, he gets removed as the Grand Marshal of the parade. It pisses me off because the kid deserves more notoriety. That's what drives me to cover this. It's for Bradley Manning. It's not for anybody else. It's not for any group or any protest group. It's for him. Because the kid's got nobody's talking about him. He's rotting in a friggin' jail cell. What they're doing to him is tantamount to torture. But hey, don't worry about him. He can't even get notoriety at a parade. And yet Bush can ride around like a free man, and so can Cheney and the rest of these war criminal scumbags, Paul Wolfowitz and all the rest of them. I mean, millions of people are dead because of those pieces of garbage. And this kid who did the right thing, hey, see something, say something, unless it's war crimes. And then you spend, endless amounts of hours in solitary confinement being tortured. Welcome to the USSA. We'll be right back. I knew that bringing this up was going to get me fired up, and I was going to get I was going to get sidetracked just on this alone. But it's an important topic, and pretty much just as I was going to break, the listener that had messaged me yesterday about the information while I was on there hit me up on Twitter, and they said it involves the wholesale sellout of the gay community to corporate America and the move to the military right, which with the Pentagon's openness about, yes, you can be gay and openly serve in the military now. A lot of people go, oh, that's so great. It's so 2013 that even the Pentagon is, they're opening their mind. Nope. Not if you understand what's going on. Not if you understand what's going on. Okay? They're trying to reel more people in. It's just like when they did women's rights. Russo talked about that. Anybody remember Aaron Russo? Remember him? I've brought this up before. Russo talked about how when they were giving, when there was the backing for the women's rights movement, he was questioned by he was talking to Nick Rockefeller one day, and Nick Rockefeller pretty much told him that the backing for the women's rights movement, everything came from the Rockefeller family, and they funded it because it wasn't because they wanted women to be free or be able to vote, but they wanted women to be able to get out of the house and go work. So that's why they wanted equal rights for women, because now if women were working, it did a twofold thing. One, got the children, because the father's out of the house, now the mother's out of the house, so the kids go into school at a much younger age, more time for the state to mold them, and it served a twofold purpose because they also made tax money off of them. So it destroyed the family, and it made money. So there were ulterior motives to it, and that's what there is going on with the whole eradication of don't ask, don't tell, and everything else. They're just trying to make it cool and hip now to be in the military. They're selling the military-industrial complex and war and death as hip, and it's not, because you're going to suffer the same consequences that other veterans have. In fact, it's disgusting. You're being used. And I'm maybe one of the only people that have the balls to call it out and say it like it is, because maybe other people are afraid to talk about this type of thing on their radio show. I'm not saying anybody here at this network. I'm just saying, there are people that probably would not want to talk about this that are out there in the radio community. I'm not one of them. I really don't care. I don't have a taboo subject, okay? So it is what it is. It's the truth. The gay community is used as a political football, and they're steered and directed just like any other quote-unquote community. See, what they do is they break us up into these little communities first. Why don't we just stop calling ourselves the this community or the that community and just start calling ourselves humanity or the human community? That's one of the biggest problems, but I could get sidetracked on that. Anyway, to back up what I was saying, let me play this audio clip of Aaron Russo really quick for you. Check it out.
Well, one of the things they told me was that he was at the house one night, and he would talk, and he started laughing. He said, Aaron, what do you think women's liberation was about? And I said, I had pretty conventional thinking about it at that point. I said, I think it's about women having the right to work, getting equal pay with men, just like they won the right to vote, And he started to laugh. He said, you're an idiot. And I said, why am I an idiot? He said, let me tell you what that was about. We, the Rockefellers, funded that. We funded Women's Lib, And we're the ones who got all over the newspapers and television, the Rockefeller Foundation. He says, and you want to know why? He says, there were two primary reasons. And one reason was we couldn't tax half the population before Women's Lib. And the second reason was, now we get the kids in school at an early age. We can indoctrinate the kids how to think. It breaks up their family. The kids start looking at the state as the family, as the school, as the officials, as their family, not as the parents teaching them. And so those are the two primary reasons for Women's Lib, which I thought up to that point was a noble thing. When I saw their intentions behind it, where they were coming from when they created it, the thought of it, I saw the evil behind what I thought was a noble venture.
Aaron, did you know that Gloria Steinem, in one of her own books, now admits the CIA funded Miss Magazine?
No, I had no idea about that. No, I never heard that.
Yeah, we're going to...
CIA funded Miss Magazine?
Funded Miss Magazine with the stated goal of taxing women and breaking up the family.
No kidding. I never heard that. Well, Nick told me. I mean, I know it, but not because I know the CIA was involved in it.
Well, Gloria Steinem was proud of it. Oh, the CIA wanted to help me help women.
No kidding.
So they funded it, yeah. And of course, it's divide and conquer.
Right,
and
of course.
what they do is they focus in, obviously, on real problems. Women were getting shafted in many ways, but the elite wasn't planning to help them. They were planning to really shaft them and take men away from them. Look at what they did with black families. You only had about 10% illegitimacy 50 years ago in black communities, and now it's over 90%. And look at welfare. You were going to give you some money, but you can't have a man in the house.
Right.
And so that was further to degrade the family.
Yeah.
Totally destroyed. And now illegitimacy is over 50% in the general population.
Right. Well, see, the whole thing is these people control the money, so they make all the rules. You understand? And they put whatever rules they want into effect. And the truth is, America has really become a socialist, communistic country. And everybody says it's a capitalistic country. It's not a capitalistic country. You know, how could it be capitalistic when you have a central bank? That's the first. It can't be. You know,
It's a planned economy.
It's a planned economy. It's a phony. If they want to create prosperity, they just print dollars. They just make dollars or put digits into the economy, and then now you have prosperity. You don't have real prosperity. You don't have real manufacturing. You just have money being injected in. It's an infusion of credit,
which only makes the government go into more debt.
Into more debt.
Now, you just heard what he said, and I let it play out because it obviously it connects the Federal Reserve, Rockefellers, and all that. So I let that last like 30 seconds play out there so you'd understand how it's connected. So I couldn't be said that I took it out of context. So, if we look at history, and we look at other groups that have first been broken up because they have to separate all of us. We can't just all be humans, right? They have to separate all of us from each other by what color, or religion, or sexuality. It doesn't matter. They'll find something to keep us all divided. Don't you worry about that. And then they go after each one. Now, you're going to say to me, well, how is going after the gay community, Popeye, going after breaking up the family? Oh, really? You don't think so? How many gay couples have children now? Aren't there all TV shows on TV called The New Normal and things like that, right? You think that they want to let families where maybe it's two gay men or two gay women raise children and perhaps maybe homeschool them? Oh, no. You can't even let that idea start. You can't even let that pony out of the barn. So right off the bat, you have to make it so that the pony never really wants to leave the barn, okay, as it were. They don't want to, they'll never let that out. Right off the bat, they'll control it. And again, if you can say you have two guys, and they're raising kids together, regardless of what people think about it. This is a reality. This is how they manipulate people. Okay, they've broken down society into different groups, and now they're manipulating each one. Okay, it's the truth. So now maybe you have two guys that are raising a kid together, and one of them's in the military, and now gets called up. He's Marine reservist, gets called up, active duty, getting sent to some God knows where country for however long. The other one works. Now the one that got called up was a stay-at-home parent. You know, they had the great relationship. He's a stay-at-home dad. The other one works. Well, now the other one has the job, and the other one's in the military, off fighting some war for the military-industrial complex. Well, who has the kid? The state that is in bed and pretty much run by the very same military-industrial complex. It's all the same people, like a rotating glass door. I had to focus on this. I had to. I was only originally going to read the article, and then I was going to go on to a few other things. But I had to, during the break, I saw that tweet, and it set me off. I was like, he's right. I need to talk about this. I need to explain a little further so people understand what's going on. Look, it's how they control society as a whole. You have to take a step back. Turn off your personal emotions. Turn off your religious beliefs for a second. I know that's hard, but you have to in order to use logic. Just for a second. Doesn't mean I'm asking you to believe in anything that these people believe in, or anybody's personal whatever. I'm not asking you to, I'm not, just listen. That's all I'm asking. And allow logic to seep in for a second. Take like 5 or 10 steps back and understand what's going on. Look at the all-out attack on every group for one reason or another. And when they're attacking one certain type of group, they're praising another. And then they play them off against each other. And then within a few months or years, it's reversed. And the one that was hated is now loved, and the one that was loved is now hated. And then they play them off against each other. And that keeps the general populace arguing. Because people will argue with each other about whether or not somebody deserves equal rights. Well, gay people deserve equal rights. They already have equal rights. We're all human. I did a whole broadcast on that a couple weeks ago. We're all human. That crap about, well, I don't know if, you have equal rights and I don't because the state doesn't say I do. F the state. You have equal rights. We're all equal. Okay? But that's an emotional topic. And then what they do is they sit and they stir the pot and they get people focused on that emotional fire. And then people get in arguments and fights over it. And that keeps people distracted. And then they do things like, try to take away the guns, try to take away the internet, try to collapse the economy, try to bring in a police state, a one-world government. Everybody says, how could they do that? Everybody pays attention with the internet and cable now. This is how they do it. They create distractions. They get us fighting amongst each other over the most mundane, retarded things. And most people won't even, I'm willing to bet a lot of people wouldn't even look at that article about the whole fiasco with the gay pride festivities in San Francisco because they would go, well, it's homosexuality and, I don't support it. Well, regardless of whether you not support it, do you support torture? Well, no, I think that Bradley Manning is a hero. Okay, well then maybe perhaps you could put aside your personal beliefs in homosexuality for 2 friggin' minutes and maybe, just maybe, support the kid. In one way, shape, or form. Just unbelievable. I mean, damn it, people. We are controlled like a bunch of marionette puppets. And it's really starting to irritate the crap out of me. Because we don't have to be this way. I see the true potential in all of you. I understand the true potential that humanity has. If only I could get you to believe in your own true potential. This whole game would be over in the blink of an eye, literally. Literally. Snapping fingers, bam, it'd be over. But you have to see it yourself. You have to realize what's going on. Stop buying into that separation crap where I associate with this group or I associate with this group. How about you just associate with we're all humans? Maybe we'd start treating each other better. Wouldn't that be amazing? You know what my parents taught me out of anything? Tolerance for everyone else. I know it sounds funny hearing it from me when you hear me talking about, getting in people's faces or this or that or not putting up with crap, but tolerance for other people and their beliefs or whatever their personal decisions are, even if I don't agree with it. You know what? I don't really care what other people do. As long as it doesn't hurt me, I don't care. As long as it's not hurting somebody else, I don't care. Natural law. But we get too embroiled up in that. It's like reality TV. It's the same garbage. Drama. The distraction. Pull your head out of it. Realize what's going on. Put on the sunglasses and see the truth. Because as soon as you step out of the game and refuse to stop playing it, their power is over. Walk away from the Monopoly board, and the banker has nobody but himself to play with. We'll be right back. So, SEAL Team 6, families to blame government for the deaths of their loved ones. I guess there's a press conference tomorrow scheduled, and the families of SEAL Team 6 are going to come out and, I guess, play video and release some information that they say that the government is responsible, as well as the Taliban, for the death of their family. Now, I don't know if they... we'll see what kind of... Maybe they're just throwing it in there to get the press's... the Taliban thing, to get the press's attention on it. I don't really know how the family feels. I've heard different stories from different people, but they all kind of have the same undertone that the families think that their loved ones were taken out because of the Bin Laden raid. Now, I personally don't think that the Chinook was shot down with an RPG like they say it was. RPGs are not accurate. They rarely fly in a straight line. I mean, they can, but a pull of the trigger on an RPG is a bit unexpected. It doesn't always the rounds aren't going to always fly in the same exact pattern every time when it flies out of the front of the launcher. They have a tendency sometimes to spin. I mean, they can be accurate up to a certain distance. Don't get me wrong, but on a moving helicopter like a Chinook, I don't buy it. And when that happened, I had a friend of mine who was actually a Marine Corps Vietnam vet. I'm going to be bringing him on. He's a radio show host in his own right. He's a good friend of mine, Ken Hildebrand, good friend of Joe's too. And he's a Vietnam vet, Marine Corps vet, and he was a door gunner on the very same helicopters, or the precursor to the Chinook, and he had something different to say. He said it was crap. And he said to me when I had him on, he said that they, and I already knew this, but I wanted him on. He said that they were trained to fly low and fast. If they were flying low, they were trained to fly fast because they knew they were open to small arms fire because they're like a big tub. So they would fly. Normally the helicopters try to fly out of small arms range and rocket fire range and stuff like that. But if they had to fly low, like supposedly this helicopter was, they flew very fast and flew evasive maneuvers. And any helicopter pilot will tell you that that's pretty much what they do when they fly low. It's low and fast. And it's not only because you want to avoid it just by flying low and fast, you avoid being shot at. I mean, some people say, well, it avoids detection too, but it really avoids being shot down by small arms fire and rocket fire. So these helicopter pilots, if they were SEAL Team 6 pilots, or special ops pilots, the night raiders flying any of these operators in there, they wouldn't have, they would have had their own special equipment. Their helicopters are equipped with all sorts of night vision and everything. I mean, these guys, that's what they do. They train. They train to go in the world's crappiest environments in the middle of the night, not being able to see at all. That's what they do. They're special ops. So when I heard, the helicopter got shot down, I had Ken on, and he said, no, it smells, it stinks to high heaven. That chopper would have been moving back and forth. And I said, even if it was just like an older non-special forces one, and he said, well, that they could be slower if it was like an older transport version of a Chinook, which is true. And it turns out they weren't in a special ops, SEALs, like a SEAL Chinook. They weren't in, it wasn't the normal operating procedure. Everything was abnormal that day, and then conveniently an RPG hits the helicopter. Personally, I think the helicopter was rigged with something. You put a satchel charge in the back, some C4, whatever, detonate. I mean, put 3 or 4 pounds of C4 in a satchel charge underneath somewhere in the back. You stash it in the back of the chopper. If they're getting on, they're not going to be going. I'm sure they were just hustled on board. I don't think it was hit by an RPG. Anyway, we'll find out what the SEAL Team 6 families have to say. Either way, those guys were, even if the Taliban did take it down, then they were, I'm willing to bet that their coordinates were given to them and they probably had a Stinger missile and it wasn't an RPG. I mean, come on. But honestly, if you think about it, a satchel charge would have been easier for them to take it out. Just put a timer on it, set them out, set it to go off 15, 20 minutes after they're out. Boom, goodbye. Right? Evil to its core. Anyway, those guys were sacrificed. It's horrific. Hopefully we'll get to the truth. All right, hour 2 coming up. Don't go anywhere. I got a surprise for you. Another mini episode of Cutting Through the BS for hour number 2 with my good buddy Johnny English, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is May 8th, 2013, and tonight for this second hour, we will be doing another mini edition of Cutting Through the BS. As you all know, my good friend Johnny English, who does a show here on Unbound, we used to do a show when I was on my other network together, a 2-hour broadcast called Cutting Through the BS. And, Johnny is a real individual who does have a real job. So time constraints, what we've done now is we like to break them up into mini 1-hour episodes when we can. And Johnny comes on sometimes once a week. Sometimes he comes on once every 2 weeks. Sometimes he comes on twice in a week period. It's really kind of random. And I like to keep it that way because it kind of adds a little bit of flavor to it. But when he comes on, it's always raw. Johnny never has a script that I feed him or anything else. He never says, "Oh, tell me what we're going to talk about." It's always raw emotion, and he is fired up tonight. So, it's a quick, short segment here. So I want to bring him on board, and then we'll get into a litany of things on the other side. But Johnny, welcome back, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me. And speaking of real jobs, I would love to wad this one up in a nice little ball and throw it right in someone's face. Just so you know. And if something happens with this real job, you're going to hear me say some things about a certain group of individuals that, they're probably not going to like. Now, and I'll save that. That's a teaser for a future episode of whether it's Broken Man Radio or Down the Rabbit Hole or Cutting Through the BS or Chop Suey, whatever it is, whatever we name it, that's going to happen in the future if things happen the way they seem to be headed. But other than that, thanks for having me on, sir. And I always like coming on with you, man.
Sir. Did you hear the story? I don't know if you heard the broadcast at all the first hour, but did you hear the story about the false Coast Guard story that I had debunked?
No, actually, I haven't. I was steaming on my way home, and I didn't want to listen to anything. No offense, but
I don't blame you.
Okay, but no, please enlighten me, sir.
No, it was just I don't want to waste the listeners' time too much, but I'll tell you off air. But
okay.
Well, in a nutshell, basically, there was you know how the alternative media gets sometimes, and a story got picked up and it was run with that the Coast Guard 7th District was operational stand down. They were only going to do like rescues, that no interdiction patrols, nothing, which that would be like a first ever. So that's my old turf. And I saw that last night, and I was like, that doesn't sound right. So I put out, before I even oh my God, we post this, I put out feelers to people I know in the Guard, and basically they were like, no.
Is that what you were talking about on the, I saw you post something,
yes.
And you said something, okay.
Yes, that's what I posted on Facebook. That's exactly, so yes, that's what I was talking about.
I wasn't one of those people where you said, you know who you are. I was like, well, it's not me, because I have no idea what you're talking about. I was a Green Army guy.
No.
I was G.I. Joe.
No. They knew who they were, but they contacted me, and as I thought it was crap. All right, we're going to break, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. More Cutting Through the BS when we get back. All right, we are back. Now we have a nice long segment. I can pick Johnny's brain.
Pick away, sir. By the way, nothing against Unbound Radio, but I prefer grape jelly on my biscuit.
You like grape jelly?
I love grape jelly and bacon.
As long as it's not GMO grape jelly.
Of course. I like to pick the grapes and stomp them in the bathtub. No, I don't do that. Of course I wouldn't do that. I don't want nobody's feet on my grapes.
You wear the little kerchief too?
I do. With my tinfoil hat.
That's what holds your tinfoil hat on.
That's right.
Well, here, I got one for you that doesn't require a tinfoil hat just yet.
Okay.
Dallas cops take an hour to respond to an armed robbery. And the reason why is because they say that, well, we weren't really, they didn't take him seriously. And they said that they couldn't tell that it was an armed robbery from the 911 call. They said that they couldn't tell that it was a robbery and that there were armed people and that the guy was he upset, blah 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 blah. I personally think that that's a lie, and if that's the truth on the part of the dispatcher, then that dispatcher should be fired. Just like the dispatcher, by the way, who took the phone call for the girl who they found in that house. The most unemotional. She's like, I'm the girl that's been missing for like 10 years. And he's like, okay, I'll have a car out to you as soon as I possibly can. And she's like, no, I don't think you understand. The guy who has been holding me captive for 10 years is going to come back. Like, send out a cop now, you putz. Just, where do they train these people? Seriously. But I digress. I mean, I have friends who are police dispatchers, and they are 1,000 times more on the ball than that guy and this one. No, I'll let you hear for yourself. You tell me if you can't tell if this guy just got, robbed by somebody with a knife or a gun. You tell me.
Yo, we gotta get robbed here. Okay, hurry up. That's the two robbers coming. Okay.
What's the address?
Oh, we got somebody. Yeah.
What is the address?
Oh, it's 4819 Bernard Drive. 4819 Bernard Drive.
And you being robbed?
Yeah. Hurry up right now.
Can you give me a description, sir?
Huh?
She already knows. It's 20 seconds into the call, and I know the guy. Obviously, he's Korean, so he's got a heavy, obviously he's upset. He's got a Korean accent, so right now it's very heavy. It's hard to understand, okay? But, like, how do you not tell that the guy just said armed robbery? You hear him, and she obviously, you heard her say robbery. So she understands robbery. You hear the guy, don't you think he was just robbed by somebody with a weapon of some sort? Wouldn't you send the cops out? No. He shot at them, by the way. The guy's a gun owner. In his self-defense, hoorah, shot at them, at the perps, right? He waited 20-something minutes for the cops to show up. They never showed up. He left. He went home. They called him an hour later at his house, and they're like, you have to come back to your store. And he's like, you're there now?
So, look.
Exactly.
I don't know what to say. I mean, yeah, there's no question. I mean, I can tell from the call that, obviously he's, has a little issue. I don't think he was in a hardcore game of Monopoly and he was talking about being robbed of one of his apartments or one of his houses on Boardwalk. I obviously he was in a real live situation. Yeah, and that's uncalled for. That's unfortunately for every one or two good call where they actually help people. There's about 20 that are getting passed over by like this. I mean that's ridiculous, man. It really is.
And their excuse is ridiculous. Well, we didn't realize that it was an armed robbery.
There is no excuse.
No, there isn't. They dropped the ball. But see, why don't they? You ever notice they can never just say, we were wrong. We were wrong. Shouldn't have done that. We dropped the ball. We apologize. You expect more of us. But they won't do that because their attorneys are like, oh my God, you'll open us up to a lawsuit.
Yeah, it's...
amongst other reasons.
Yeah, of course. Well, they're in position of authority, and they never admit they're wrong. And
line.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that we have this in this country where police officers, there are some really good ones out there, and I know you've pointed that out as well as the bad ones, and it should be pointed out, and even the good ones are becoming kind of less and less as we move along. They're become fewer and fewer, and even they're coming under scrutiny of their departments because they're whistleblowers in a sense, and where they point out the wrongdoings. As I've stated many times before, I grew up in this, where a good old Southern justice, and you figure it happened way back then. Who knows what's going on now? So, yeah, they're never going to admit they're wrong. It's just not in their nature. They can't do it.
I had a similar story like this, and I've talked about it on air before, and I know people might be inclined to say, when I first told the story, and you can go back and listen to the archives, I've talked about it numerous times. And I've actually had more than one situation, but there was one situation in particular that led to my opinion. It wasn't where I had to shoot the person, but it was a physical altercation. And the cops showed up an hour later, and when they showed up, they were like, look, next time, just handle your business, and then call us after. Throw them out in the alleyway, because there was an alleyway right next to the tattoo shop I worked at. And I said, so wait, let me get this straight. I have your explicit permission. You're going to tell the rest of your night crew. And they were like, dude, the whole night crew feels this way. Or they're like, don't worry. You got to handle your business. It's, if it's self-defense, do it, and then call us. They're like, just, if you want to cover your ass, make sure you got a witness. Okay, cool. Always got a witness at the tattoo shop. No problem. And that's how we handle things, dude, for 2 years. You can ask anybody that worked with me. For the 2 years I worked there, I cleaned the drug dealers off the street. I walked outside with a baseball bat, because now I was like, cool. You want me to handle things my own way? Okay, I'm going to actually do it and see how you guys respond. And, dude, they didn't care.
What? Are you saying that the war on drugs hasn't cleaned up the drug dealers? That people that live in the neighborhoods have to do it themselves?
Yep.
What?
Yep.
Ugh.
They called me Tattoo. They thought I was crazy. They'd see me walking down the street, and they'd be like, what up, Tattoo? What up? They'd clear off the street, bro. No lie. I swear. I carried I always had an aluminum baseball bat in my station at the tattoo shop. And they knew I was, because I was confrontational. You know how I am. And my wife would tell you, they only had to witness me grabbing one or two of them by their throat and knocking the crap out of them a few times to understand, wow, this little white guy's nuts. So they left me alone, man. And when I would, for the 2 years I worked there, I had to clean the street off. And it was like my first week as the manager that we had this incident where I don't even think I was the manager yet. I think I was just still a body piercer at the tattoo shop. And we had called the cops, and they didn't show up for like an hour. And finally, it's like, okay, we'll handle it our way. And then from that point on, and then once I became the manager of the shop, that was it. It was like, some call me Crazy Joe, others call me Batman. You know what I mean? And I just went nuts. And I had to clean up the scumbags off the streets because they weren't doing it. I mean, I couldn't believe, I thought the cop was joking to me when he said it to me. And then, I don't know, probably like a year and a half later, I was walking down the street with another guy I worked with one day, and I have a concealed weapons permit. And this idiot tried robbing my friend and I with a toy gun in the middle of the street. And I laughed at him, and I was like, because he pulled his shirt up, and he's like, yo, man, like, shut your mouth, give me your money, blah, blah. And I looked at it, and I was like, man, that's a toy. And I was like, but look, I got a real one. And I had a 9 on me at the time. I had a little pocket 9, and I drew it out on him. And the guy about crapped himself, dropped his shirt, and took off running like a little bitch. And I was like, my friend was like, oh my God. And I was like, you see? I was like, I knew it was a toy. So I holstered my weapon, and I was like, this guy, I saw him screwing with somebody like about a half a block up, and I was like, you know what? I was going to, as odd as this sounds, South Beach is nuts, and I was so used to dealing with the insanity, and that actually isn't the most insane thing I've had to deal with down there, that I was just like, it was par for the course for me, dude. My adrenaline, my friend thought I was like, he was like, what planet are you on? Because I was totally calm, because that kind of stuff happened all the time to me, fights and everything. So it was so normal that I was, I never had to amp up. I was always amped up. So it became, that, even being amped up was like the new calm, you know what I mean? And that's why I ended up leaving that job, by the way, because it was just out of control. But the store owner, where this whole fracas happened in front of, came out and said, oh my God, that guy robbed somebody yesterday, and he just tried robbing somebody like an hour ago. He was like, that was so awesome that you stood up to him. And I was like, really? Now I was like, all right, now this guy's an idiot. So repeat offender. So I was like, how do I get the cops down to, come and arrest this moron, because if I pull out my gun and go chase him down the street, then I'm going to get charged with like terroristic threats or some other crap. You know how they are. So I was like, how do I get the cops out? Because remember, prior conversation, beat them up and then we'll come. So I'm like, oh, I know. So I called 911 and I said, there's a guy waving a gun around in the middle of the street, and I gave him the intersection that it was at. And dude, I swear to God, within a minute, every cop on the beach, whether it was SWAT cop, regular patrol cop, bicycle cop, ATC cop, Segway cop, foot cop.
Segway cop.
Dude, I swear, every cop on every form of cop mobile that they have in South Beach showed up, okay?
Were there horses?
But you know what? No. I'm surprised there weren't. I'm surprised they didn't break out the horse patrol, right? So, I don't know if they have one, but you never know. So, I was just like, wow, at least they responded to that. So the first cop gets out, he hops out, and I'm like, all right, I see the officer, and I flag him down. And he's like, which one is it? I said, the moron standing right over there by the thing. So he's got his Glock out behind him, and he runs up on him, get on the effing ground, blah, blah, blah. He gets on the ground, and he goes, hey, come here. I go, yeah? I don't see any guns. And I looked at him, I said, officer, he's wearing a wife beater. He goes, yeah? I said, when I called 911, I said he was wearing a flannel shirt, right? I said, so didn't they tell you that in the description? And he looks at me. I said, so if he's not wearing the flannel shirt, do your police duties, and I would look in the first, 70 feet of the bus stop here, because he didn't walk off any further than that, and I would look in the garbage cans. I'll bet you'll find a flannel shirt, and I'll bet you the guns are wrapped in it. So I turned, dude, I kid you not, I turn to my right, and I go, let's try that one. I walk over, and I look in, and I go, oh, look, and I grab the flannel shirt and pull it out, and as I pull it out, 2 toy guns fall out of it and stumble across the thing. You know what the cop said to me? I would have shot him. I said, dude, those are blatantly toy guns. Yeah, but you don't know that. I said, dude, I knew that there was a toy gun. It looks like a toy gun. My mind was, yeah, but you couldn't have been 100% sure. I said, I was 99% sure, and I was sure enough that I wasn't going to send a man to the other side based on the fact that he had a toy in his pants, you putz. I'm a responsible gun owner. I said, and then the guy took off when I drew down on him, so that would be murder. His back was to me. It's the way the law reads. If he's facing me, it's self-defense. If he's facing away, it's murder. Cop goes, you should have shot him. I said, dude, the guy that was with me will attest to this. No less than 18 times this cop said this to me. I would have shot him. I would have shot him. So finally I said to him, well, yeah, I mean, you're a cop. So you could shoot people in the back and get away with it. I said, if I had shot him while he was running away or discharged my weapon openly on the street like that in a crowded area, you guys would have arrested me. I said, so I did the right thing. He was no longer a threat. He took off. Obviously, he had a toy gun. If it was real, he would have reached for it. And if he reached for it, I would have killed him. End of story. So either way, he would have run off or he would have been on the street in front of me when you rolled up in a pile. But, cops like, no, you should have shot him when he was running away. I'm like, that's murder, dude. I was just like, ugh.
He's not the one who's going to have to go to prison.
I know, yeah, exactly. I need an arrest for my quota this month, damn it.
Yeah, darn it. I haven't done any murder investigations in the last 3 days.
Dude, I tell you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got to cut us off, Johnny, because the break's sneaking up.
Darn it.
I know. I'll let you get your say on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We will be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. So, Johnny, we were getting into your take on what I just told you, and the break snuck up on us. So, go ahead.
Well, all I wanted to say was that's the way we should be taking care of things, is right in the neighborhoods. And it's been done all over the country, in some really, really bad areas where the people that live there, that have been living there for years, people that grew up and they, the house gets passed down from generation to generation, they just get fed up and they finally get tired of all the gangs and, all the violence and the drug dealing and everything that's going on, whether or not, it doesn't matter why the drug dealing's there or why the gangs are there, and we can save that for a whole nother show where, we talk about how they use race to divide us, but we won't get into that now. But what I'm saying is, it really is up to us. It is up to us as a community to band together. However, the people that are in charge don't want that. They don't want us banding together and dealing with crime on our own. but because that's bad. We can't do that. We can't take care of our own neighborhoods. We have to pay people to do it that are usually, and I'm not going to say never, but usually not around when you really need them. Just like the story you're talking about when I told you off air. When you need them, there's nobody there. Just for instance, where I live, we kind of live on the edge of town. So when people go through town and they got their loud pipes on their Harleys, and I have nothing against motorcycles or Harleys or anything, but they're ripping by our house at top speed, and we're talking about the crotch rockets, everything, and then the people with their hot rods, and they always wait till they get to the end of the town by our house before they're doing this stuff. Well, what if one of my kids is out there playing or riding their bicycle? Now I got to worry about some moron who thinks he's great on his motorcycle. And where are the cops at? They're never around. But boy, they're there if you don't stop at a stop sign fully. They're always somewhere hidden in the bushes for that. It just makes me sick, man. It really does. And I've always been that way. So, I just think we should police our own. And, if we need the police, fine. But as far as actually, the communities, we can take care of our own selves. We are big boys and big girls. We can do it. Don't always think you need to call the police for every little thing. Handle your business like a man or like a woman. That's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to say about it.
Well, it's well said. I mean, we should be handling our things. Look. Obviously, these people aren't going to come. I mean, the guy got into a gunfight. Like I said to you, dude, they exchanged gunfire, and they didn't show up for an hour. I mean, okay, would they have saved him had he had not had that gun? Well, you just call the cops. Isn't that what I tell everybody? Just call the police. You don't need a gun. Just call the police. But if he had waited for the cops, he probably would have been dead because he would have been shot. Or however they would have killed him, right? They probably would have killed him. And then the cops would have responded, I don't know, 12 hours or 24 hours later when somebody found the guy's dead body.
Oh, yeah, somebody walked by, smelled something. Hey, something smells funny. And then they find the poor guy, laying dead behind his desk or something. It's just pathetic. That story there is pathetic.
Dude, it's ridiculous. It's 110% ridiculous. I just want to scream when I hear people, well, the cops will protect me. No, they're not going to. Trust me, look, I speak from my own personal experience where I was like, okay, I'll do the right thing. First time, like I said. And I said, I'm always game to try something at least once, right? So I tried. Didn't work out the way that they say it does. And then the best part was they told me, oh, don't wait for us. Okay, cool. So I don't. I mean, if you're going to tell me not to wait for you because you're not going to come and handle situations, well then, all right, awesome. They would tell me when we get fight calls, because remember, they used to come get tattooed at the shop, so they were kind of like buddy-buddy with me. So in one conversation with a cop, I learned that when they get fight calls, they like to go, because a lot of times they're hanging out together, they won't want to respond. They'll say that they're responding, but they really won't go for like a half hour, because they want to let the people either beat the crap out of each other and then be just sitting there on the curb bleeding when they roll up, or 9 times out of 10, they're gone by the time they roll up and they don't have to deal with it. And they don't have to get their hands dirty and anything because they really don't care that 2 people are beating themselves up. So,
well, yeah.
Job well done.
Yes.
Yes, but they're there to protect everybody.
Right.
I'll bet you they're there to protect the banks, right? I mean, the protesters want to go protest outside a bank.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Then they're there. They have their little riot gear on.
Hey, you know what I do in my town when I want to see the cops?
No.
When I want the cops to visit my house?
Hold on, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to make everybody hold on for like 2 minutes. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. So, Johnny, just as we were going to break, I had to cut you off again. And the suspense is killing me as it's killing the rest of the listeners. So what were you going to say?
Well, here's what I do. If I need the cops to come by my house once a month, it would have to be around the same time. So you got to plan this. In order for to have the police come to my house the same time every month, all I have to do is not pay my water bill.
Oh, there you go.
That's right, folks. I just don't pay my water bill, and guess who shows up at the door with a disconnect notice? the officer that happens to be on duty at the time. He comes up all nice, doesn't even come to the right door, by the way. He would prefer to apparently avoid all the bombs that my dog leaves in the yard to come up to the wrong door and to he doesn't, sometimes he knocks, sometimes he just tapes it to the door. That's how our public officials here in this small town that I live in pay they're paid. They're not paid to watch out for these idiots driving 90 miles an hour down a 25-mile-an-hour zone. No. They are paid to deliver those water bill disconnect notices. So that's small town Iowa, man.
Yeah, don't call them if someone's breaking into your house.
No.
It'll take, or if you're in a gunfight. Don't bother if you're in the middle of an armed robbery / gunfight, but don't call them for that. But if you don't pay your damn water bill,
I got another good one too.
You best watch out. Well, that tells you by the way, that tells you who they work for. But go ahead.
How much time do we have?
Oh, you got plenty. Go on.
I'm not even paying attention. Here's another one. Supposedly there was a big drug bust going down in town. And we're talking about this town is probably well less than 2,000 people and live in this town. There was supposed to be a big drug bust going down. Of course, everybody knew it. Keep in mind, I went down to the local Casey's, and they're talking about it in Casey's. Now, and the reason I asked about it was on one side of town, there's two main streets that come into town. On both sides of the main streets, there were 2 or 3 cop cars. They're standing outside with this gigantic camera. I swear to you, dude, it looks like something from the 1940s. This camera pointed in one direction. And then you go to the other side of town, there's 2 or 3 more cops standing out. This is in the wide open now. And they're wearing reflective vests so that someone doesn't hit them. But they have cameras on both sides of town, and this is their big secret stakeout. I literally almost peed. I was laughing so hard when I found out what they were doing. I thought they were just running radar, at 10 o'clock at night. But apparently not. They were actually on a covert drug, trying to bust this drug house, supposedly, that we have here in our little tiny town.
Sir. They were doing their job in the war on drugs.
Wide open, with reflective vests.
Hey, look, do you remember the conversation we had a few weeks ago about the SWAT team cop that was running around with his $500 EOTech holographic sight on his rifle backwards, making both the rifle and the sight useless for that period of time?
I also like the picture that you commented about yesterday, I believe, where the police officer hung his entire utility belt, his entire Batman utility belt with gun in the holster on the outside of the bathroom stall door.
With gun and taser.
With gun, taser, bullets, whatever else, handcuffs, everything they stuff in their Batman utility belts.
Somebody was like, "Oh, that's photoshopped." I said, "Well, look, I'll just put it this way: if this is real, wow, self-explanatory."
I would hope it's photoshopped, because please tell me that there isn't a police officer that dumb in this country. There can't be, dude. There can't be.
Dude, they just had this guy in Opelika. He was fired for the 8th time. I've reported on the 7th one and earlier ones on Federal Jack in the past, but this guy had been fired 8 times, dude. 8, count them, 8 times.
You realize they're in the union, right?
Yeah. Well, this time he got fired because he left his police-issued AR-15 at his girlfriend's house. But I thought cops were the only ones that should have AR-15s because they're responsible with them. Yep.
And I don't want to get off on. I can't. I gotta wait. But I really do have. When you get into city unions, some of these people, and I've known people that work for the city. I've known some hard-working people that work for the bigger cities. Not little tiny towns like mine, but bigger cities. And some of these people, they get to keep their jobs because they know there's no way they can get fired. They can screw up all they want, and just short of killing someone, they don't have to worry about it. And to me, that is wrong, period. There's no...
You ever notice when a cop screws up? Again, I'm not bashing all police. There still are some good ones out there. Unfortunately, the bad ones are outweighing the good ones now. It used to be the other way, but you guys still can turn things around. Okay, introduce the younger generation to the Oath Keepers. But and I'm not bashing cops, but a little common sense, perhaps. Why is it every minute you're turning around now and seeing another story like this where they're beating the crap out of somebody or they're doing something stupid like that?
Because those are the officers they want.
Exactly.
And by they, we know who they are.
Well, they're not hiring anybody with intelligence. I've talked about this. There's more than one case, but there's a very publicized case where a guy sued a police department because he was too smart. And when they asked the police chief, he said, "Well, we had to lower the standards because people, with a certain IQ level, were the officers that had a certain IQ level it was like a rotating door. We were losing them faster. So rather than change the policies that were obviously driving the police officer away because he was smart and he could think for himself, they just no, we won't change the policies. We'll just hire somebody stupider to enforce the same policies that drove away somebody that had half a brain."
Well, and that's the whole point is they want guys, and we're talking military too. We can do this in the military too. They want brain dead people who will go in and do exactly what they tell them to do, so that when it's time for them to shoot Americans or fire on innocent people for whatever reason, they'll do it and they'll follow those orders. And again, I am not bashing anyone in the military. I was in the military. I understand the whole deal when you join and all the things you have to raise your right hand and swear to and sign your name 8,000 times. However, there are, I would say, a majority, if not all, of the wars that are being fought right now are BS. And a lot of these people join under the guise of helping their country. They think they're really helping their country when, in fact, if they would have done their research, and I know you suggested that no one join the military. I suggested no one join the military. I cannot, and I used to be severely pro military about, I think all 18-year-old kids, especially now, need a little yanking up. They need to be yoked up by the military and shown, the way it is.
Oh, dude, I used to walk around saying that we should be like Israel and make people.
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah.
Yep.
I used to walk that. That used to be me. I used to be like, "Oh, everybody should serve. It would straighten them up." Blah 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 blah. Well, maybe in a perfect world, but not in a military-industrial complex, New World Order, Illuminati, Zionist, whatever evil Satanist a-hole world that we live in. That's for damn sure. And speaking of the war on drugs, Johnny, there are now more Americans in jail than there were in Stalin's Gulag Archipelago. That's right. About 6 million people in jail. The U.S. has 760 prisoners per 100,000 citizens. In the 1980s, we only had 150,000 per 100,000. We now, when I've said on air, and you have, and many other hosts have said, we have the highest prison population per capita in the world. Everybody's like, no. Yes, we do. This is right from the Business Insider. More Americans in jail than were in Stalin's Gulag Archipelago. But no, we don't live in a police state.
I think most policemen, not most, but I'd say there's a good part of them, just like Rich said in the chat room, I think they're scared. Because I think they kind of know what's coming. They see the writing on the wall. But they can't do anything because they're obviously going to lose their job. Or they're going to be singled out by the rest of the force as a traitor or, something to that effect. So it really is up to us, in a sense, to find these good cops and to let them know that we support them as much as they are there to protect us. That's how it's supposed to be. By the way, you notice that Serve and Protect has been taken off a lot of police cars?
Yeah.
You notice that?
Or if it still says it says the banks underneath. or the elite.
But seriously, I've noticed. I don't think I've seen to serve and protect on a police car in probably 5 years.
All those mottos like that are gone. Did you notice after 9/11? They remember before 9/11 in like the 90s. A lot of the different police departments around the country, they used to have like at least like I saw it because I was a firefighter. So like in firefighter magazines, you'd see police cars and stuff and fire trucks, all done up or whatever. And they used to have all different colors. All different color schemes, paint schemes, everything. Uniforms, same thing, all different colors, paint schemes. After 9/11, countrywide, they went back to black and white, and they went back to the black uniforms, or the dark, super dark navy blue uniforms. They did that because it invokes fear and intimidation in people. That's why. They even admit it. That's the reason why they all dress like SWAT cops now.
Well, yeah, they all have their, you'd swear, a lot of cops you see now, you'd swear they're on some kind of SWAT team event, because they're all decked out, their M4s and, hanging off their shoulder and their tactical gear. Everything about them is tactical gear, and it's like, what are these people here for? What, maybe in the bigger cities I could almost see it, but when you get into Iowa, in the outer areas that, like where I live in the Midwest and stuff, it's just a little weird.
It's overkill, man. It's really overkill. And they're trying to keep the police and the people separated. I've talked about this before. They're doing this to keep people separated. They're doing this so that way, if they can continue on their path, uninterrupted, and they can bring about what they want to bring about. Say it's like economic collapse, right? Well, they'll have the cops on their side to do what they want, or they'll have the cops at least on their side to be their little servants, and be to act as sandbags for their masters, pretty much. And then when they're done with them, just like history has shown, they'll be gotten rid of. And I think you're right, and I've talked about this before. We need to reach out to them and make them realize that we're not the enemy. We're your brothers, your sisters, your mothers, your fathers, your uncles, your aunts, your best friends, your cousins. We are you, okay? Not the masters that you serve. You should be serving and protecting us, and we don't even want you to serve us like slaves. We want you to just be with us, be humans. I don't want you to serve me. You're not my servant. I just want you to be equal with me and stop walking around dressed in stormtrooper outfits acting like who the hell you are, because you're not. I don't really want much. I'm really a simple person. I know Johnny doesn't want much. You know what I mean? We're all on the same team, and the sooner I know, just as much as I want to point out the bad stuff and I rip on stupid stuff, and we have all night, it's important to also throw out the positive stuff that I'm not going to feed into that division. I'll point out when things are wrong and when people do bad things, but I'm also going to point out the fact that we need to bring this stuff together, because if we don't, we're screwed. And that's the truth. All right, break coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We will be back in a few minutes with the final segment. Second hour went by fast already. Don't go anywhere. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment in tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. Johnny, before I forget, thank you so much for coming on and doing another mini episode of Cutting Through the BS.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's always fun, sir.
Sir. Hey, real quick, I want to remind everybody that May 25th is kind of a nationwide march against Monsanto, and hopefully you can find a local place or people near you that are doing this, and if you can, please get involved, and please spread the word if you can find one nearby. I'll be doing one in Des Moines here in Iowa. I'll be speaking, I guess. They asked me to speak, so I'm going to try to get through that without screwing up. But yeah, May 25th, March Against Monsanto. We all know how evil they are and what they're up to. So get out there and help support that wherever you are in this great country, or once great country.
I don't get asked to speak at little festivities like this.
Oh, like you, sir.
No, they do. It's funny they don't. I think it's hysterically funny. There's a lot of people that listen to me in South Florida, but for some reason the activist community, well, there's a section of it, and it got taken over kind of by like that Occupy crowd down here, but the Occupy crowd down here didn't like me because the guy that was trying to subvert the whole thing down here that was going on, we called him out, and I did it on air. I did multiple broadcasts. I had some of the Federal Jack crew that knew him from other things in the past went down and exposed him out there to the point where he had to stop showing up and stuff. A few certain individuals and stuff. So they don't like us because we don't like. If you're into real activism, we're down with you. If you're fake and you're trying to subvert things and trying to get people to buy into crap that they shouldn't be buying into, we'll expose you. That's how Federal Jack came about to begin with. That's how the name came about with. Everybody always asks about Federal Jack. The truth about the matter is that it started off as we were trying to, there was a guy who was a federal plant, his name is Jack, and he would show up to protests down here. So we originally just made a page to expose him, and we did, and we titled it Federal Jack. And then it just, we transformed it into a news website and made it, an organization, and it kind of grew from there. But that's where it started, was exposing scumbags running around pretending to be who they're not at protests. So, yeah, I don't really get invited to too many protests down here for some strange reason. Yeah, I go anyway. I'm gonna go down and cover it. I want to go see. I think they're doing one down here, so I want to see what's going on. One of the listeners mentioned it to me, but if anybody out there knows anything about one in Miami, I'll go down and cover it. Let me know. And if even if I can't physically make it, if for some reason that day I can't physically make it, email me at vfor911@gmail.com. vfor911@gmail.com. One more time, the letter V, FOR911@gmail.com. And if you're going to go down there, and I'll coordinate with you, and even if I can't physically make it down there for some reason, I'll try to coordinate with you to maybe have somebody do like on scene reporting. Or they can go, record it or whatever and send me the audio. But I think that's a good idea. I think people should go out, march against Monsanto, because Monsanto is evil and they suck. Okay, even my father, who's 71, knows that Monsanto is evil, and my dad's pretty wide awake now. I got to give him a lot of credit. He has really come a very long way, and he doesn't eat any of that genetically modified crap. You should hear him. Like we'll be out somewhere. We'll be talking about food or whatever, and I'll bring, I'll be like, oh, you don't want to eat that genetically modified crap. Oh, yeah, no, that stuff's no good for you. I read about that. I heard your broadcast, or I heard this, right? So, yeah, I mean, everybody knows GMO food is no good. I was in Whole Foods, and I heard some blue-collar dude randomly talking to his wife, mechanic, still in his mechanic's outfit, and he's sitting there with the eggs in his hand, and he's like, no, hold on. You got to make sure that how do you know that the chickens weren't fed, non-GMO food? You have to know. I mean, he was schooling his wife, telling her if the chickens didn't eat non-GMO feed, then the eggs they laid aren't non-GMO eggs. If the chicken ate GMO feed, then it doesn't matter if the chicken doesn't have antibiotics or anything in it. It's still eating GMO feed. It's going to produce an egg that was created from a body that has been fed off of and pulling said, non-nutrients out of GMO feed. So, yeah, Monsanto's evil, dude. I'm totally down with taking that scumbag corporation on. Just remember, Agent Orange, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I want the people making seeds for my food that created Agent Orange. Good choice.
Yeah, exactly. No thanks. And by the way, they just admitted to VA that Agent Orange causes cancer. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I know. Woo! Wait, what are you more surprised at? That it causes cancer, or that the VA admitted it? Yeah, I would say the latter of the two. That's what I would be surprised at. Johnny, we're out of time, dude. I want you to plug your show really quick. In fact, I'll do it because I'm chatting. It's Saturdays and Sundays, ladies and gentlemen, 8 to 9. Johnny might eventually change the time, maybe do a 2-hour show on Saturday, but we'll see. Right now, Saturdays and Sundays, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Broken Man Radio. If you want to tune in and hear Johnny sound off, do it. It's fun. I put my feet up on my desk and I listen to him. Johnny, thank you for coming on, brother. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. We're out of here. Until tomorrow night, I love you all. Don't buy into the mainstream media fear porn. And remember, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. I'm out of here.